today for the Voices of Labor Oral History Project of the Southern Labor Archives Special Collections Department, Georgia State University Library. I'm Norman Slosky. I'm here with Edgar West. It's September 14, 2005. Edgar, can you identify yourself? We're conducting this interview at the Ironworkers Local 709 office in Savannah, in Pooler, Georgia, and interviewing Edgar West, who now lives in Hardyville, South Carolina, who retired as business manager of Ironworkers Local 709 in March 2005. And Edgar, could you describe your background and how you got involved in the ironworkers and where you went to school and whatever?
Yes. After high school, I joined the Army. I was in the Army 3 years. I came out and went to work for Steel Erectors, a fabrication company here in Savannah. And they also had an outside crew that done the steel erection. And after watching them work, I decided that's what I wanted to be. And I talked to Pete Clifton, who was the owner of Steel Erectors, and through him I was able to get an apprentice program at Local 709 in November 1966. And I started the apprentice program at that time.
And you were from Savannah originally?
I was born and raised in Savannah.
And your parents were from Savannah?
Both my parents were from
And grandparents?
Absolutely, yeah, both grandparents.
Okay. And what about, did you have any brothers in the ironworkers?
No.
Any relatives?
No, don't have any. Had a lot of friends that was in them, but didn't have any relatives.
Okay. So the main experience that drew you to the ironworkers was just a job you worked on?
Right, that was
okay.
it.
Okay. And where'd you graduate from high school?
Groves High School.
Where's that?
Right in Garden City.
Okay.
In the suburbs of Savannah.
And do you remember when you graduated?
This is 1960.
Okay. And when did you go in the Army?
In 1960.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
okay.
the time I got out of school, I went in.
Where'd you serve in the Army?
I was in, I went to training here in the United States, and then I served time in Thule, Greenland.
Oh, in Greenland?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What kind of work did you do?
13 months. I was at a Nike Hercules missile site.
Okay. So were you above ground or underground at that time?
No, it was above ground. All the missile sites were below ground.
Okay.
But the barracks and all was above ground.
All right. So you got to live in some cold weather for a long time.
Absolutely.
So after that, you returned to Savannah?
Right.
I bet you were grateful for the warm weather.
Absolutely.
When you mentioned that you that you were an apprentice initially, could you describe what the apprentice program was like and what kind of work you did during that period?
Right. It was a lot different than it is today. It was very, very hard work. You had one apprentice to probably 3 or 4 gangs back there. And you basically kept everybody supplied with the tools and material they needed to keep the job going and doing basically anything the German iron worker wanted you to do. You worked for each and every one of the Germans on the job, and they kept you busy back then.
So you were more like a helper.
That was it.
Now, did you learn, what kind of skills did you learn when you were?
Oh, yeah. Well, they worked. As we progressed, got more experience, and all they'd assign us more responsible duties,
Okay.
And by the time we graduated, we were certified welders and qualified to do rigging, just about anything that any German can do.
Did you have any classroom work?
Oh, yeah. We had school we went to twice a week and for the 3 years, and plus you had to have 1,500 hours on OJT also.
And when were you indentured? When did you become a journeyman?
It was in 69. So,
okay.
Yeah,
and at that point, you became a member of Local 709?
Right.
Okay.
Well, I was a member and my initiation date is November 66 when I went into the apprentice program.
All right.
Yeah.
So in this local, you can become a member in the apprentice program?
Right. You are a member when you come in the apprentice program. Yeah.
And are you still in touch with any of the apprentices in your class?
Oh, absolutely. I see them all the time, several of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And after you became a journeyman, did your work change?
Oh, right. Well, at the time, after I become a journeyman, work got real bad here. And
that was in the early 70s?
In the late 60s.
Okay.
And I spent several years just running all over the country, you know, so it changed every, you know, with every location it changed.
Well, tell me about some of your experiences, what people call booming, as a boomer.
Oh, I worked several jobs. In 1968, there wasn't any work here, and I think about 6 people was working in the whole jurisdiction. And I was working on the Kennedy Memorial Center in Washington, D.C. when Martin Luther King got killed. And they burnt the city, and all that was quite an experience. And then after that, I came back to the Baxley, Georgia, and we started up playing hatch. And then I left there and went out to New Orleans on the Superdome. And I came back, and then word got slow. I went to New York. I worked there in Manhattan on a big telephone company building there with American Bridge on the corner of Church and Worth there in Manhattan, and left there and went to the World Trade Center with Koch Construction.
How long did you work on the World Trade Center?
About 11 months.
And did you work on the towers?
Oh yeah, that's what I was working on.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was working on the derrick, connecting on the derrick.
Now, when you say connecting, what do you mean?
Connecting the steel.
Okay.
You know, I would bring it up from the street.
So you were one of the
Put it
crazy
in
iron
place.
workers who were climbing the steel pretty high up.
That's all I did until I got too old to do it.
Okay, so in other words,
That's it.
you were. What does a connector do?
The connector just puts iron in place. He's the one that hangs the iron.
Okay.
He's the one, and it looks real hard, but actually, if you know what you're doing, it's probably the easiest job on the.
In other words, the steel comes off the crane, and you have to guide it in place.
Right. It comes from the street.
Right.
Like in the case of the trade tower, you know, you had a long way to the street, you know, and you go to the street, there's shoestring, several pieces, and they swing it up to you, and you put it in place.
And then, is there someone else who bolts it in place?
Oh yeah, different crew will come behind you and bolt it in place. You put just enough bolts in it to make it safe.
Okay.
And then you move on to the next piece of iron,
Now,
and they come behind you and bolt it.
Were you tied off? In other words, what kind of
You didn't
safety?
tie off back then.
You didn't tie off at all?
No,
So we
you
just
didn't tie
climbing
off.
steel with nothing there?
That's it. They didn't have time to tie off back then.
No kidding.
But no, we never tied off. We didn't even have any means to tie off back then.
Now that's changed since then, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now it's changed, and it's good that it has. But back then they didn't think that much about the workers anyway.
Would anybody get hurt or killed on that job?
I've been on several jobs where they got killed. One of my worst memories, I guess, is in Milledgeville in '69, I think it was. We lost a derrick there working for Ingalls. We lost a derrick. We had a 278-ton girder on it. And I lost one of my best buddies. In fact, he died in my arms.
What about on the World Trade Center? Did anyone get killed?
Oh, several of them got mangled and stuff, but I wasn't a witness to any of that.
Now so you were working pretty high up.
Oh yeah, but now they had safety nets up there. They would, it was in that plank area of the floor.
Okay.
So it wasn't near as bad as it looked. You know, if you're standing on the ground, see
But
somebody up there.
Wasn't it pretty windy up there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But the windiest job I ever worked on, I worked on the John Hancock building in Chicago, but I didn't stay there long with that one.
That was.
It was.
Now, did you choose the jobs you worked on when you traveled?
Oh yeah.
So you like the high-rise jobs?
Well, like we went when the money was at.
Okay.
You know? Those jobs, the bigger jobs, was the ones that worked overtime most of the
Okay.
time.
So longer hours.
Longer hours, and we went where the money was.
And did you travel with other people?
Occasionally we would, you know, to share the expenses, traveling expenses, and rooms and stuff.
So, for example, when you worked on the World Trade Center in New York City for about 11 months, did you have an apartment, or where did you live?
Yeah, we lived across the street in Jersey.
Okay.
Jersey City, and we'd ride a tube back and forth to Manhattan. Cost you $quarter a day to ride a tube back and forth.
Okay.
And I bunked up with a guy, Al Kilgore, doing that job. He was out of Atlanta. He and I connected together.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how'd you know the job was over? In other words, what happened? You finished putting up all the steel?
No. The work picked up back home, and we came home.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in other words, so your preference was to work in Savannah?
Oh, absolutely. But you couldn't afford to sit around here. And if you had to be out of town, you had to go where the money was at. You know, if you couldn't be home at night, you might as well be where you can make some money.
Who was the business manager during that time?
Whitey King was a business agent back then.
I'm sorry?
Whitey King.
Whitey King. Okay,
Yeah.
and who was the business manager after him?
David Enfield.
Okay, and are you related to David Enfield?
He's Mac's father-in-law. I mean, he's my father-in-law, yeah.
He's Pam's father.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's deceased now.
Okay, and that leads me to my next question. How did you get involved in the union? In other words, how did, aside from working as a union iron worker, first of all, was it attractive to you to work as a union iron worker, or just an iron worker? Did you care about the union?
Oh no, I believed in the union. I mean, I saw what the union could do, and they cared about the workers, and they cared about their safety, their future, retirement, health care, their families, and that made me choose to decide to be a union member.
So, in other words, that was important to you in addition to being an iron worker.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Right.
Now, when did you get involved in union affairs and politics and things like that?
Over the years, after, I'd say in the late 70s, early 80s, I was mostly in supervisory positions on the jobs and all.
What kind of jobs did you have?
And anything from foremen right on up to superintendents.
And what did you do as a foreman?
As a foreman, you just have a crew, and then you just did the regular work.
And what about superintendent?
Superintendent, you have a lot of jobs. Schedule and coordination, the whole deal.
You were responsible for the project, for the erection.
Right.
For example, when you worked on the World Trade Center, were you a foreman or
No,
superintendent?
I was connected on that.
Okay.
The last superintendent job, I was superintendent for 8 years at Plant Vogel.
Okay. The nuclear power plant.
Right, and I had about 60 iron workers that worked for me.
Okay. And who did you work for?
I worked for Ingalls
Okay.
Iron Works.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that must have been a lot of hours.
Oh yeah, a lot of hours. We put in a lot of hours. Like I said, I was there 8 years.
Weren't there 712s on that job?
Yeah, we did overtime. We worked a lot of overtime. I was over all the NSSS, setting all the reactors and the steam generators, and that's where all the time was.
Okay. And you had safety and probably redundancies and making sure
Right.
a lot of people checking after you.
That's right. Yeah. And we put in some real long hours. Once you hooked on the reactors or steam generators, you couldn't cut them loose until they were in place and secure. And sometimes that'd take a week, for the reactor.
Now, that nuclear facility, that was the last facility licensed in this country, wasn't it?
Right.
And Georgia Power is now thinking about building another facility.
At the same site.
Okay,
Yeah.
same place. You gonna leave retirement?
No.
Go back to work?
No.
So you worked for was that your last project that you worked on?
That was the last job I worked in the field before I took this job.
So how did you, you mentioned you got married to Pam in 1980.
Right.
And was she working for the union at that time?
No. She had worked for the union, but at that time she wasn't working for the union.
And did she travel with you when you first got married?
Yeah. She went. We spent a lot of time out in the Midwest, and she enjoyed it. Then we came back and went to Plant Vogel, and she was a document control supervisor there for over 8 years for Pullman Power.
And let's see, were you living in Hardyville at that time?
No, we built a house right close to the plant.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So you were living in Waynesboro?
Yeah, we built a house there.
And you sold it when you were finished?
Yeah.
Gosh, so you look pretty close there.
Oh, I lived about 3 miles from the plant.
Well, that's good. So you could work long hours and come home and...
Right.
Okay.
I could run back and forth, if there was a problem or something,
Okay.
It's convenient.
Did you like that kind of work?
Oh, yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I loved it.
What do you like about it?
Well, I just like I like to work all day and turn around when I get to the gate and look back and see what we've done.
Okay.
I mean, it's a feeling of accomplishment. You can see what you did.
Okay.
And I always enjoy it.
Did you feel the same way about the other structural steel projects, the high-rise buildings you worked on?
Always did. Very proud of them. Got pictures and stuff that I'll always cherish.
How'd you feel about when the World Trade Center was demolished?
Hey, they hit me pretty hard. now my son's come along behind me, and he wants to be a part of building the new one back,
Yeah,
because
that's
I
right.
worked on the original one, so I guess he'll be headed up there.
Yeah, we were in New York City a couple of weeks ago, and we saw, my sister lives in Greenwich Village, and there's a building actually going up just adjacent to the World Trade Center site now.
All right. I was there about a year ago, but they hadn't started anything other than the infrastructure in the bottom.
So, after you finished the Plan Vogel project, how did you describe to me more your involvement with the union? How you got
Well,
involved?
at the time I was a superintendent, and the president of the local was P.H. Ward, and my father-in-law, was a business manager at that time, and he was in poor health, and he had to retire, and the president of the local appointed me as an assistant prior to him retiring, and I finished his term out when he retired, and that was in 1984.
And tell me, what kind of duties does a business manager of Local 709 have?
He handles everything: the negotiations, grievances, pensions, annuity, health and welfare. Any problems that the membership comes up and has, is his job to handle.
What about jobs, hiring? You run a hiring hall?
Yeah, we run the hiring hall. We handle all the referrals, organizing. The list just goes on and on.
You handle relations with employers?
Yeah, absolutely.
And all
That's
those
a big
individual jobs is a big job.
Absolutely, that's right. Regardless of how small the problem is, when you look at it, and if you remember, if it's his problem, it's big. It's the biggest thing going, and it keeps you busy.
So from 1984 until you retired in 2005, you served as a business manager of Local 709.
That's right.
Okay. So for about 21 years.
18 years or so. 18 years.
16, right.
No, it was 88. It was 88.
Oh, 80, oh
I'm sorry, I said
okay,
84. It was 88.
Okay, 88. You
It was
became
88.
business manager.
Yeah,
And you were reelected many times.
that's right. Without opposition. One time I had opposition, but other than that, I didn't ever have it.
And every 3 years you were reelected.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I've obviously, I personally have known you for many years, and I've seen you operate in different arenas, and your passion and interest in what you do and how important you think it is, and how you believe very strongly that your members' interest and union's interest is very, very important. Whether it's dealing with employers or other local unions or the health plan or the pension plan or whatever comes up. What do you see as some of your important accomplishments? I know that's hard to think about. Just kind of pick them out.
There's several things I'm proud of. I guess one of the proudest things is that, we had been involved with the construction of Savannah Riverside back in the 1950s, but we never had an agreement with them. We worked under a memorandum of understanding until 1989. We were able to negotiate a project labor agreement, and it was a pretty hard thing to do. In fact, we were very lucky at the time. We had an administration that believed in the working people of this country. And without the help we had in Washington, we couldn't have pulled it off. And I'm real proud of that.
What kind of political assistance did you?
We had, in fact, I got to know the Secretary of Energy very well. In fact, she sent me a letter and congratulated me. Tommy Yarber and I negotiated the project labor agreement for all crafts.
Tommy with IBW 1579.
Yeah. We negotiated the project labor agreement for everybody. And I've got a letter that I'm very proud of from Secretary of Energy.
That was Richardson, Hazel Richardson?
Hazel O'Leary.
Hazel O'Leary, okay.
Yeah, congratulate me on the.
Now, she was
on
the
project labor
she
grant.
was under Clinton?
Yeah, under Clinton. And without her help and some, other help up there, we'd have never been able to do it. But I think that was a real accomplishment. And with the help of our professionals and our plan and all, we've got probably the best pension plan in the country. And I like to feel like I played a small part in that, and I'm proud of that. And,
Let's go back to the, we're going to have more time to discuss other things, but let's go back to that agreement with Savannah Riverside. And it raises another issue. You've always been very much involved in politics.
Right.
Why were you involved in politics, and how has it affected, why do you get involved, and how has it affected the union? And
Well, we have to get involved in politics for the benefit of our workers. I mean, our elected officials, we have to elect people that care about the working people. And if we're not involved, they don't have a voice.
Okay, just keep on talking.
And that's why I try to stay involved. And we support the people that support the working people, whether they, non-union, but politicians, they care about the working people of this country. And we are the voice of our membership, and we have to be active in that.
In fact, I see myself how what form has that taken with political support?
What form? I don't know.
In other words, contributions, being active in campaigns.
Absolutely. Get out to vote, contributions. Whatever it takes to get the people elected that support the working people of this country.
Okay, and you've even been involved at the local level.
Oh yeah,
in Savannah.
absolutely. Yeah,
And
right. We were able to. That's another accomplishment that I'm proud of. Was we was able to get a prevailing wage clause for all city and county work here in Savannah.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
That means that contractors can't come in and undermine your local contractors and your local workers by bidding and paying substandard wages and no benefits.
Mm-hmm.
If they come in, they have to pay the established prevailing wage, which is our wage and our benefit.
This is for contracted work.
That's right, for all city and county work.
Okay. The similar to federal law, which is called the Davis-Bacon Act or the
Right.
Service Contract Act.
That's exactly the same. Yeah.
In fact,
In fact, the wages, the prevailing wage here is a Davis-Bacon wage,
Okay.
and they pay that.
Let's go back to the Savannah Riverside, because I think that's a pretty big deal.
That was a big deal.
How many employees did that cover, the project labor?
Probably 350 to 500. It fluctuates.
Iron workers?
No. This is all crafts. The project labor agreement is all crafts.
Okay.
Right now, like I said, it's up and down, and it's slow over there right now. We probably have 60, 65 workers over there right now.
Iron workers.
Yeah,
Okay.
iron workers. Yeah.
And then there are electricians, pipe fitters.
All other crafts.
Okay.
And it's probably, and it goes up to 700, 800.
Okay.
It fluctuates.
Okay.
But they all working on the project labor agreement.
Now, could you describe what what is a PLA or a project labor agreement?
Basically, it's an agreement between the management and the labor, and it addresses all aspects of the project. And we've had people look at this project agreement, which turns out management included, and it's a very well written agreement that's fair to both the management people and to the workers. And in fact, I understand that some other people took that project agreement and tried to implement it in other places. It's a very good working agreement, and we don't have any problems with it.
Didn't you have some outside assistance in drafting it and putting it together?
Well, yeah. Well, we tried. The National Building Trades tried to get involved with it to begin with. I mean, we talked to some attorneys and stuff on it. But basically, it was drafted, right there in Augusta, Virginia.
Did you have any an outside mediator or arbitrator involved?
We've had some problems where we had, after the project agreement, where we had some problems.
Was the WJS involved at all?
Yeah.
How-
He was terrific. That was on a violation of the agreement.
Okay, well, tell me about that.
I can't remember the facts of it right offhand.
But was
I'd have
he
to
a
dig it up.
mediator?
He was a mediator,
Okay.
and a very, very good mediator. And he came in when we filed a federal lawsuit because they were violating our agreement. And eventually we agreed to go to mediation. And
Was Bechtel the defendant in the?
right, Bechtel was defending. The DOE was heavily involved, the attorneys and all.
Mm-hmm.
And they ruled in our favor. You know, we were right. And Mr. Ushery was a big help in that. He was fair. And, you know, we prevailed.
Mm-hmm. The is that PLA is still in place?
Still in place, right?
The now there was another big project labor agreement over at the Plant Vogel
Right.
with Georgia Power.
That,
Now
it was
you were
still in
not
place.
you worked under that, but you were
Right.
not involved in negotiating that.
No, we didn't have anything. It was in place at the time, and it's still in place.
Okay.
And
In other words,
it's
that
in
PLA
place.
has actually been in place for what,
Oh,
25, 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And we still have a lot of people that work under that agreement.
The and a PLA is an agreement that covers all the construction crafts.
Right. That's signatory to it. Now, you know, they have an option whether they want to sign it or not, because all of them signatories, Plant Vogel and Plant Hat.
And it refers back to each local's agreement.
Right. But in some cases, they don't.
Okay.
Now the Savannah Riverside PLA doesn't. It's a standalone agreement. It don't go
Okay.
back to your local agreement. at all.
Okay. You mentioned as well that you have been involved in the, well, let me just say, what are the reasons why, in your mind, somebody would want to be a union iron worker than just instead of just being an iron worker?
Well, for respect that you get by being a union iron worker, our contractors expect our people to go out and give them 8 hours work for 8 hours pay. We believe in that. We push that. In return, our contractors respect our workers by giving them a living wage, benefits, pension where they can retire with dignity, and safe working place. And it's just, it's the only way to go, in my opinion.
Now, let's go over each one of those. Mention there's a pension. What is the pension fund for Local 709?
What is it? What do you mean?
And what is it called?
It's the Southeastern Iron Workers Pension Plan.
Well, there's Southern Iron Workers.
Yeah, Southern Iron Workers.
And you've been a trustee on that plan.
For 18 years, yeah.
And you mentioned that you thought it had some of the best benefits of any pension fund which you're aware of.
Right.
In fact, you're now drawing a pension from that
Right,
pension
absolutely.
fund. And in order to participate in that pension fund and get your pension, you have to work. You have to have hours contributed on your behalf by employers.
By contributing point, right.
And give me some examples about how much are the benefits that someone could draw
Well,
from
right.
that plan.
The reason I say our plan is the best, I go to a lot of meetings with the International Foundation, all where I'm aware of the benefits and contributions paid in and paid out by the other unions throughout the country. Our plan, its contributions aren't that much. We pay $1.80 an hour in our plan. Our people earn credits about $130 to $135 a year per credit. And it just allows our people to really, and not only that, our people can retire at 50 years old with 30 credits with a full unreduced pension.
So that's 30 now.
Yeah.
You say 135 a year. That's 135.
That's based on 2,000 hours a year.
Okay, but that's $135 a month in benefits.
Right, $135 a month in benefits for every year.
So, for example,
Correct.
if you have 30 years at age 50 with 30
Right.
now, You can get 30 times 135.
That's it. And
Assuming-
go out at 50 years old.
Okay, if you, I mean,
Right.
aren't that many people who've done that,
Right.
but in the future that may be more possible.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And then, isn't there a rule, if you have 25 years or 55, you can retire with a
Yeah.
full pension?
25 years and 55. 25 credits. 55 years old, you can go out unreduced.
And why is that important in this industry?
It's important because after, ironwork's hard. It's hard. It's not. It's a lot safer than it was years ago, but it's still hard. And by the time a man puts in 30 years ironworking, he's ready to retire, and he can go out and be able to live a decent life without having to depend on social programs to take care of him, and enjoy his remaining years.
And do most of your members retire at the earliest date they can, or they keep on working?
Well, no, it depends on what kind of physical shape they're in. We do have some that, has back problems, leg problems, whatever, and they go ahead time to get their 30 and 50, they'll get out. But in a lot of cases, they don't.
Mm-hmm. What about, now there's also an annuity plan. What is that?
Annuity plan is just a negotiated contribution from the contractors that goes into a individual account for each member, and they can at a retirement they'll have that cash lump sum payment.
So it's in addition to pension.
It's in addition to the pension.
So it's a lump sum payment to go along with the monthly benefit.
That's it exactly.
Okay.
It's a tax deferred contribution, and it gives them the benefit of investing that money, over the years, and then going out when they retire, paying taxes at the time.
Now there's also a health plan, Southeast
Right.
Iron Workers Health Care Plan. You've been on the board of trustees of that plan for 18 years,
That's it exactly.
and you've had plenty of fun on that board, haven't
Oh
you?
boy! I imagine anybody on a health and welfare board has had a lot of fun, but it's been a terrific struggle.
I have to say, I'll say this as well, that either my firm or I have served as attorney for
Right.
both the pension plan, the annuity plan, and the health plan. So I've been witness to many of these things. But you kind of chuckle with the health plan. Why do you do that?
It's just been a struggle with it, and I'm sure all plans are like that. But it's just a rough job being a trustee on a health care plan.
Now that plan is called the Southeastern Iron Workers Health Care Plan,
Right.
and there are 8 local unions in it,
Right.
which means there are 16 trustees.
And each one of them has their own agenda.
And I must say, for the purpose of this interview, that these are what are called Taft-Hartley plans, and pursuant to the Taft-Hartley Act, Labor Management LMRDA, these plans have to be governed by a board of trustees with an equal number of labor management
Right.
members.
Right.
So they're sitting alongside the business managers are contractors, employers
I
from each
see.
area. That's why there are 16 with 8 local unions.
Right.
And for example, the pension fund has management trustees as well as labor trustees, etc.
Right.
And these plans are responsible for millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
Pension fund, the annuity fund, and the healthcare plan. Healthcare plan has gone through some rough times, hasn't it?
I think all of them in the country have. I don't see why they're that much different, other than a few things that we run into. But it's just healthcare is just a problem throughout the country.
But there also has been some internal political issues.
Oh, well, hey, you've got that. Anytime you've got iron workers, all of them as a whole, very headstrong and believe in what they're doing, and right or wrong, you're going to have a battle, But
So there have been some battles on that.
absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
And do you think that they've been worthwhile and worth being involved in, and the plan is better off for it?
Oh yeah, I'm confident that we are, and we've got a good plan. But we'll always have ups and downs with you got so many people involved. But without them, we couldn't have survived. So
stuff. And in the room now is also Pam West, Edgar's wife. And Pam, could you introduce yourself and say what your connection with Local 709?
I was secretary here for 15 years.
Well, Pam is modest.
My husband's the business manager for 18 years. My father was business manager for 18 years prior to that.
And so you have, so how long have your family members been associated with Local 709?
What was that, 36 years?
36 years.
Well, longer than that. I mean, my father was a member since 52, I think, 1952.
And are you retired now?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm asking, in other words, we just told me tape recorder. When did you retire?
the end of June of 2005.
Okay, so both you and Edgar are retired now.
Yes.
And smiling. And was it important for you to work for the union, for 709?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Why?
Well, all my brothers are iron workers. My son's an iron worker. My mother worked here for 25 years and retired. My father retired here. My husband retired here.
And you retired here.
And I retired here, so it's been here ever since I was born.
And what does the union mean to you?
Well, it's health care, pensions, a way of life.
What do you mean a better way of life?
Well, a better way of life with the benefits that the construction workers have, job protection, security.
Mm-hmm. What do you remember about your when you were younger, with your dad working as business manager?
I remember him coming home with the white powder all over him as a little child,
Okay.
and then I remember during teenage years being gone a lot.
Yeah, and when you say white powder, was that when he was working?
Yeah, on the jobs, on
Okay.
the everyday jobs.
Where did he work?
And out of town a lot.
Where did he work?
What was the white powder? The Chimera?
Come here.
Oh, Chimera. Okay.
And I've seen pictures of me in one arm and Bubba in one arm as a baby, and him with the white powder, and us just fascinated that he...
What kind of plant was that?
Chemical plant?
Pigment plant.
Which is
pigment
now,
plant.
it was Chimera, and now it's Kerr-McGee.
Okay.
It used to be cinnamon.
Yeah, American Cinnamon.
Yeah. And did you work for the union when David was the business manager?
Yeah, for 2 years.
Okay.
It was just hard, father and daughter working
Right.
together, so it didn't last very long.
And then, now Kathy, your sister, is now working for the Local 709.
Right, and she was here with my father in the office for 13 years.
Okay. Prior to Edgar becoming
Right,
business manager.
right. She was married 10 years, and they decided then to have a family after 10 years, so she left. And then by that time, Edgar had came into office, and when she left, he felt comfortable having me here.
Okay. And you're saying your brother, Bubba Edenfield, is now business manager?
Which he's been president for a lot of years. He's held office here for about 20 years, so he came in to Edgar's leaving.
Okay. Edgar, did you have any sort of role model in your career? I mean, anybody you looked up to as your mentor?
Not really that I can think of. I just love the trade. That's the reason I stuck with it. You know, it was a macho type deal when I was coming up when I was a young man, and I just learned to love it. And hell, that's all I ever done.
No, we had a meeting today. The reason we took a break is that we had a meeting with some folks from Bechtel, Savannah River, about some issues on benefits for 14 employees who work at Savannah River for Bechtel. And I saw in that meeting how much you cared about each individual employee and the benefits for those employees to make sure that they're not harmed, and if it takes going to court to enforce those rights, you feel very strongly about that. Is that pretty typical of the way you think about things?
Absolutely. Now, I feel like that's our responsibility in here to defend the rights of each and every member, regardless of how many, if they're right.
Let me ask each of you this question. You're both from Savannah, or the Savannah area, where unions aren't that popular. In other words, you don't. I mean, Edgar mentioned how you worked around the country in New York and Chicago and Midwest, different places, and where unions, locals may be bigger, the more crafts are union, the jobs are more union. How would you contrast being a non-worker union member in Savannah as opposed to New York or Chicago or Kansas City or somewhere like that?
It's a lot of difference.
Well, tell me how it's different.
Working in the right to work states, a lot of difference. We have our contractors that pay fair wages, benefits, and promote safe workplaces. Don't have to compete against contractors that pay substandard wages and no benefits. And in return for our contractors to be competitive, we have to make sacrifices as union members. So it's we don't have the working conditions that the northern states have, and we have to work a lot harder.
What does it mean that you're right to work state?
It's the right to work law, the right to work without representation.
In other words, you don't have to be union member.
You don't have to be union members, no. And I've got contractors, our fair contractors have to compete against these contractors. And it puts us at a disadvantage. And like I said, we just have to make sacrifices on our own in order to make our contractors competitive.
What does that mean?
That means we have very management-friendly working rules. And, of course, our wages aren't as high as some of the states, they don't have right to work law. And we just have to make sacrifices.
In other words, you're saying in non-right to work states,
right,
the wages are higher.
Right, higher, and working conditions are naturally better because they don't have to compete against the kind of contractors we have to compete against.
And the local unions are bigger?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And the union's market share is bigger?
Right.
More?
Sure.
So right to work has a pretty profound influence on labor movement.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What about you, Pam? Growing up in a union family in Savannah?
I guess I never seen that side of it. Always, I guess, with Edgar and Dad looked pretty easy, like they had the control. So I never saw so much of the controversy. I saw a little more after working in the office and the fight he was up against. But before that, it just never seemed that hard.
Okay. In other words, this is the only place you knew.
Right.
Okay. Do you remember any stories that your father might have told you as anything you remember in particular that was important to him? With the local?
Always be fair and honest and be a man of your word. I remember those three things from him all my life.
Okay. So honesty and your integrity is very important.
Very, very.
Was David active in the in Savannah labor politics or labor movement?
Yes, a lot during younger years, and say till he got older with his health. But before that, he was very involved, very, very.
Mm-hmm. And Edgar, I know you've been involved. You were president of the Savannah Labor Council, of the Savannah Building Trades Council,
right,
one time.
Right.
And were you involved in with other building trades unions?
Oh yeah. I remember the building trades in Augusta. I sat on the private industry council here, and I was very involved in all aspects of
the AFL-CIO.
Yeah.
Were you involved also in the state AFL-CIO?
Yeah.
Now you received the Labor Leader of the Year award a number of years ago.
Right. I forget when that was. 90. I don't know.
6-7 years ago.
6-7 years ago. Okay. And
you were a delegate to it every year to the election of the AFL-CIO.
Okay. Have you noticed any changes in the local labor movement? Since you were involved.
No, not really. Since 2000, it's been a big struggle because the work here now, like we had prior to 2000. But the guys are working hard and doing a good job here, the local labor guys. But they're not really doing anything any different than what we did in Pam.
I mean, you're talking about what about the amount of work that's available?
Yeah, so it's a little slow compared to the Clinton years, but we have pretty much full employment now, so I guess we're blessed.
But how does your membership compare to the way it was previously?
Our membership's down some from then, and
A lot of that's due to retirement.
yeah,
Retirement.
a lot of it's due to the early retirement benefits we have.
Uh-huh.
But as a whole, everybody here in Savannah is doing fairly well.
Excuse me.
Two, three. Okay, this one's moving. The needle is moving.
Oh, good. Maybe that means something.
Yeah, it could be.
Now is the time. 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 Right there. Should be right there. Should be right there.
Testing 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 inside 2. What I was saying is has the labor movement changed? Is there same amount of work that there was? And you're saying that there was some more work during the Clinton years. The number of members in the local has decreased since then because of retirements.
Right.
Early retirements. Is the local trying to bring in some more members?
Well, you don't bring in any more than you could work. That's the reason. I mean, we're increasing our membership through our apprentice program. We have, I think, about 35 apprentices in that now. But the work that we have just doesn't justify, any bigger increase in the membership right now.
Are there any things that have happened in? Well, let me ask you something that's happened recently. There's been a sort of a schism or a break in the AFL-CIO.
Right.
What are your feelings about that? I mean, something that's happened recently.
And you probably don't want my feelings on that.
Well, this is your
No,
job.
I don't. I don't agree with the split. I think it's the politics are going to end up hurting the working people, and I think that's what it is. Mostly it's just politics. I don't agree with it, but I'd rather not go any deeper in it than that.
Okay.
Strength comes in numbers, and you're breaking the numbers.
The do you have any thoughts about national politics? Not just union politics, but
Oh, absolutely. We got to get some Democrats in.
why?
Why? Because hey, the working people really took a beat since 2000, and I mean, and it's a shame. But hopefully, the people of the country's enjoyed enough of this.
I think they're starting to see the light.
Or the darkness,
Right.
Or the darkness, exactly.
Yeah.
especially in New Orleans and
But you've seen a big shift in politics. The IROC is not so important now as the economy, where before the economy was not that important to the American people.
You think what recently happened in New Orleans, Mississippi, have an effect on people's feelings?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
it should.
everybody realizes it too. I've seen the president on television last night accepting responsibility for the way FEMA reacted doing this thing. So he's out there trying to cover his butt now. But
Did you know that Bush has put in an exemption to the Davis-Bacon Act and any of the
New Orleans?
reconstruction work in on the Gulf Coast?
Isn't that a shame?
Th-
But
third-
it don't surprise me.
Third time in U.S. history that's been requested.
It don't surprise me. It's a shame. I also know that he's already gave him a no bid contract to his good friends in Halliburton down there.
I read in the paper that Halliburton KBR, Kellogg Brown & Root, which is owned by Halliburton, is getting the work, and also Bechtel's getting some work too. So-
And Fluor Daniel.
And Ford Daniel.
And Shaw.
And Shaw, that's true.
Yeah.
And Yates.
Right.
And who else?
Yates.
Oh, Yates. Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I've seen that on TV. The construction workers there at the hotels already.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And
No bids.
No bid.
Right.
Without
They
Davis
didn't have
Bacon.
time for any bids. They were still cleaning up, and they were out there.
Without the Davis
right.
Bacon Act.
That's it.
The
It's your big business.
really
It's
is
your
big.
working man.
Right. I guess the problem is they don't have enough people at work, huh?
Yeah, right. All they had to do was go to Superdome.
That's it. What do you think will happen with unions or labor movement in the future, immediate future and long future? Do you think there's a future for unions?
I do, and I
Yes.
think more and more people seeing the need for a union. There's just so much stuff going on like that. Well, that's a good example you just talking about, William Davis Bacon down there. That it's just a shame to be that the working people's taking over the year.
And the poor states to begin with.
Right. Now, I don't know how much further we're going to go before, in my opinion, if changes aren't made soon, you'll have a heck of a revolt in this country. I mean, you work harder and harder and make less and less. And the rich get richer and the poor get poor. And eventually the people's going to get tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Time has a way of repeating itself.
Right.
Yes, it does. Are there any things that have happened with labor unions that you remember that stick out in your mind? Either of you?
Just stories I can remember, like being, I guess my father, whenever they started organizing, like in Jacksonville, and him taking care of business there and coming home to take a peek at his firstborn and back to Jacksonville to do whatever it is they did.
Did 709 have jurisdiction over Jacksonville at one time?
No.
But he helped organize that local?
What you talking about is when there was a lot of trouble down there.
Oh, there was? Okay.
Yeah. And,
Before John Bowden? Or with John Bowden?
and International took it over.
Okay, all right.
They went out to take it over.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, the fight that they had to get to where it all began.
Yeah. Do you think it's important for union members, union leaders, and unions to be active in politics and the public arena.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I've seen it firsthand. Pam has. If you're involved, you can pick up the telephone and call your politician.
Give me some examples how that's affected
Oh, it's
your
affected
members.
me.
Right
In
here,
so
Davis
many
Bacon.
cases, with the Davis-Bacon issues here in Savannah, where I had the politicians all on my side. We talked earlier about Savannah Riverside, and we had some battles over there. But I was luckily, I was at the time we had a congresswoman up there that I was very good friends with, and
McKinney, with Cynthia McKinney.
yeah, and.
I know Leroy.
She intervened in a big conflict I had with the Department of Energy, and we got it resolved overnight. And it's just in being active and your membership being active, and knowing the politicians so that you're able to pick up the telephone when you have a legitimate problem, and they've always come to aid.
And you mentioned earlier that you were able to get the Chatham County Commission to agree to a prevailing wage ordinance.
Right.
Has that resulted in more jobs for union members?
Yeah, absolutely it has, and it leveled the playing field. It was shortly after that they had they let the contract on the Marine Trade Center here in Savannah, and they went out prevailing wage, and that allowed our fair contractors to come in and submit successful bids on the erection of that.
You mentioned that your son Mitch is a union iron worker.
Right.
Is that important to you that he is a union iron worker, not just an iron worker?
Absolutely. He wouldn't have thought of it though. He knows he loves the unions like we do, and he knows what the union's for and what it's about, and he wouldn't work the other way.
Now, he has two beautiful children.
Thank
He
you.
sure does.
And let's see, one Savannah, and what's the boy's name?
David.
David. How can I?
After my father.
Right. David the third.
Well, no, he's Mitchell David.
Oh, it's Mitchell David. That's
Yeah.
Mitchell's middle name. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you call him David?
Hmm.
You hoping that he becomes an iron worker?
Well, we would have preferred Mitch to be sitting where you are giving us the interview
Oh.
in that type of position, but he chose ironwork, so.
Well, what about the little boy? What about little David?
Well, you have to let them decide. You can encourage one way what you would like, but the bottom line, they're going to do what they want to do, and and as long as it's good, honest person, and they have our blessings, and do what's right. We still gonna push for the lawyer, but
I
anyhow, we
understand.
might get the iron worker.
I'm glad that I still have a job.
And Savannah's going to be president. There's
At
no
least.
doubt. So I
Savannah
mean,
will-
we
Right.
the day she was born, I told the nurses this will be president one day.
Certainly with her outgoing, with her personality, that's for sure. What else do you think is important? This is, Pam, I described before that this tape will be placed in the Southern Labor Archives at Georgia State University, their special collections department, and along with other people who've been active in labor movement, organized labor in the South. I'll stop talking and let you talk. Is there, either of you talk, is there anything else that you think should be on
Well,
here?
the union's made it comfortable for us to be sitting by our pool every day and riding in our boat and spending time with our grandchildren at young ages, that we have the time and the good health to do this. We have the retirement, it's made our life comfortable.
It's not too bad for a non-worker, in other
No,
words.
it's not. No, it's not. A lot of hard work,
Yeah.
a lot of years, and it's rewarding.
In other words, the dignity of that you can work, work in the
Exactly.
field, dignity of working with your hands, having a craft, and still earning a decent living and a pension.
Exactly.
Terrific. And
it's the way it
and
should
the
be.
saddest, the honor of representing the guys over the years, I will never forget.
And know you
when
made a
I
difference.
walked out in the fields and all, they glad to see me. They had a problem, thanked me for whatever I'd done. I've got memories that'll be with me the rest of my life, and it has been an honor to serve the guys, and
It's very good.
And I really cherish
Very
that.
good. And that's, and I want to put this on tape as well. I've worked with quite a few union business managers, and you're one of the people that I admire the most. I mean, for your integrity,
Thank you,
and
Norm.
that you feel that way, that it is an honor. And I also feel that I'm fortunate to do what I do. I do something that I believe in, and not everybody gets to do that. And with people that who think what they're doing is very important, and has a social importance to the members, to the labor movement, and actually helps people every day. I
Has
mean,
made a difference.
makes a tremendous difference. I mean, without the union, you wouldn't have a pension, you wouldn't have the health benefits, wouldn't have annuity benefits, and as you say, you wouldn't be sitting by the side of the pool.
That's it.
Exactly, just
That's
relaxing
right.
with their grandchildren.
Now, it's interesting, a lot of union people say, well, I like all that, but I don't want my kids to do the same thing. And do you, how do you, that's why I was asking that question.
We would have liked Mitch to have gone to college. This was our dreams, but it wasn't his dream. And you know, you have to accept that. And I'm proud of him. I'm proud of what he's doing. I'm proud of my husband. I'm proud of my father, my brothers. They've all made a difference for other people. So it's
So it's not just working for yourself, it's part of the working for everybody else as well.
everybody. Unity,
Yeah.
the brotherhood,
And sisterhoods.
and sisterhood. Exactly.
And anything else that you think is important?
Nah, that about covers it. Like I said, it's just been an honor, and I've enjoyed it. And if I could go back, I wouldn't change a thing.
Really?
I'd come back the same way I did it the last time. I have really enjoyed my life and enjoyed the positions I've had, and I'm enjoying it more now than I ever have.
Very good. Well, and you're fortunate to have a wonderful family. I mean, not everybody has that.
I'm very lucky.
That's
right.
Have a strong family with children and grandchildren, and have something to enjoy.
Right.
That's very, very important.
And good friends.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And something you believe in, and something you look back on and say, gosh, I'm really proud of what I did. And
We've been blessed. We've been very blessed.
Yeah.
And look at all the people that have been helped by what I did and what the union has done. And the union will be here long after you quit working here. And
Sure.
all right, I'm going to stop the tape.